So today I want to talk a little bit more about how we were able to save my in-laws from themselves and to prevent them from becoming Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. I mentioned how my father-in-law had fallen. My mother-in-law didn't call for assistance, and I just happened to change the time that I was going to visit them and was able to find him and get help in the nick of time. But the reasons why we were able to circumvent that from happening again in the future was the fact that my in-laws actually had a trust. Again, I have a lot of stories. I'm going to go back to 2011 when we first moved back to town, our hometown, because we knew that our families were getting older. They were going to need assistance. We needed to be closer when we needed to help. And we would do pop-ins every now and then. And doing those pop-ins, every now and then some things just didn't seem right, but they were able to talk to us and talk us out of thinking anything was, really wrong. But then in 2018, when we took a trip with my in-laws shortly after they had taken a European river cruise, and a lot of things didn't go right on that river cruise. My husband had instructed them that they needed to call him as soon as they landed in Amsterdam. They didn't. He's on the phone tracking them down, trying to find out, made sure that they made it. They did. Reminded them that they were supposed to call him as soon as they cleared customs at the airport so that he could tell him where he was so that he could pick him up, take him home. And they walked right past him. So not only did they not call him, but they walked right past him in the airport, didn't even see him, and they're just making a beeline for outside. We don't even know how they thought they were going to get home if they didn't let somebody know. So that was the first red flag that really set it up. And then we accompanied them on a trip to Baltimore. And this was just 2 months afterwards. And it was scary at what we saw. And we witnessed Mill not being able to walk for more than 100 yards without, being out of breath and needing to stop and rest. However, refusing to stop and rest because she didn't want to admit that she needed to. And every single time that someone that worked at the airport would offer her a wheelchair, she would snap at them that she didn't need one, but yes, she did. And then going through TSA, watching them fumbling through their stuff and taking things out of their bags and putting them on their persons like eyeglasses, and TSA trying to help me corral them because Michael had gone ahead with the bigger bags and I was behind just trying to usher people through. And it was a real eye opener for us to see just exactly how much help that they needed. And we tried working with their doctor to help him help us, help them. And he was just basically dismissing us, basically siding with them. And I think the reason is because he was older than them and probably shouldn't have been practicing medicine at that point. And he saw in them himself that if you take away their rights, my kids will probably do the same thing to me. And I'm probably reading way much into that, but that's what it felt like when we were going through the process. And every time that we would ask for his help, he would just basically dismiss us, to the point where we knew they had a trust, and we knew in that trust were healthcare power of attorney where he would have to talk to us, and that there were HIPAA documents where he would have to talk to us, but we couldn't find them because they were lost in his home. And long story short, um, we worked around that by Michael starting to accompany them to the doctor. So with him in the room and them giving the doctor permission to talk to him at that one particular time, he was able to kind of circumvent a little bit, but still the doctor was pushing back on things Michael was asking him to do, because he would then turn to the incapacitated person and say, "Is this true?" And they'd say no. And you look at Michael, "Well, there's nothing to see here." And very, very, very frustrating. So when the firemen told us, "You need to fire that doctor," we didn't have the authority to fire that doctor at that point because we knew the trust was there. We just couldn't find it because it was lost in their home. So when Phil was admitted to the hospital and then to the rehab facility, that was our time to get in there because Mill had proven that she no longer had the capacity to live on her own, that she could no longer take care of herself, let alone take care of Phil as well. So 2 years prior to this happening, their trust had been redone. Thank goodness it had been done at a time when Michael had to drive them. So we now knew exactly where this trust was. And we were able to actually steal it and get it to our home and start to utilize that documentation to help them. And because we had it when this whole incident happened, we were able to use that documentation to have them deemed incapacitated so that he could exercise the powers of attorney. And the reason why this is important is without those papers, doctors would not have to talk to us. We would have not been able to actually change their doctors to get doctors that would work with us and actually help them. We would not have been able to start paying their bills, which they no longer have the capacity to do and manage checkbooks and things like that. So that is why I really tout that you need to have a trust. It's not about financial security for your family members. It's not about leaving them money or the expensive car or the antique watch. It really is about protecting you and yourself when you can't speak for yourself, like what happened with my in-laws. Without that paperwork, who knows what would have happened? We've got to be able to give people the information and the legal access to be able to help protect us. And like I said, I can't speak for Gene Hackman and their family to know, exactly what was in his trust or if the kids, knew anything really about his condition. But because we had infiltrated them and had been infiltrating them since 2011, we knew something was wrong. Unfortunately, we had doctors who wouldn't work with us. But then finally getting that paperwork in 2021, that was a game changer for us. And that helped us be able to step in and save them. And that is why I give you the charge. You don't have to have a full-born trust, but what you need to do to have so that people can step in to protect you is you need to have a HIPAA authorization. And that HIPAA authorization lets your doctors talk to the people that you name. So you can name your family members, you can name your friend, you can name your cousin. So that's just a HIPAA authorization that they can talk about your medical. Then you need to have that healthcare power of attorney. And that healthcare power of attorney names someone or someone's, and it's recommended that it's really only one person because you don't want to be tracking down 20 people to be able to speak for you on your behalf. And because my in-laws had named Michael, he was able to change their doctors. He was able to hire people to come in and help them. All these things that they needed at a time when Mill couldn't call and ask for help for Phil, Michael was able to step in and be that decision maker. Because without that paperwork, we would have had to go to court. That could have taken a long time. We would have had Mill deemed incapacitated through the courts, then we would have had to have Michael installed. But that paperwork said, in case of my incapacitation, then I name my wife. In case of my wife's incapacitation, I name my son. In case of my son's incapacitation, I name another successor, and you just keep going down the line. But because she'd already proven that she was incapacitated, I mean, she didn't call for the first time, that paperwork just was able to help us step in and help him. So again, I say, please do what's right so that people can step in and help you because it's your life that's on the line. It's your health. It's your well-being. It's not about money. And I know when I say the word trust, people's eyes glaze over and they think I'm just talking about money. No, it's really about who can speak for you when you can't, because that's my ultimate goal. Aging on your terms means getting the things in place so that you can live the life you want to live, even after you can't say what it is that you want. So thank you so much for letting me come back, giving you more of the story. Like I said, a lot of times what I'm going to say is a little bit sad, but for me, this one is really good because that paperwork was there. We were able to prevent any further damage and be able to change the trajectory of their health care, their medical care, and their standard of living. It improved so much. And like I said, while we lost Phil because he was actually sicker than we knew at the time, Mel is living her best life. Heck, she's out right now gallivanting with her caregivers while I'm stuck at home cleaning. So please take care of all the paperwork that you need. Get with an estate planning attorney, get your I's dotted and your T's crossed. If you made it this far with me, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.